Michael Wilkins, Managing Director from Standard & Poor in London and in charge of Standard & Poor's climate change business. So you've come all the way from London to the CarbonExpo Australasia, and you've just sat through the Climate Change Minister Combet's speech. So what's your sort of view as someone coming inside from outside about the direction and the debate?
Well, I think direction has changed for the positive, really, and I get the impression that it's only a matter of time now before we move to a cap and trade scheme in Australia. It's we've been in this position before, so you could say yes, well, why now and not before? Yeah. I get the sense that the opposition is running out of arguments, and it's going to exhaust itself, and it's inevitable, really, that it's moving in that direction.
I mean, coming from Europe, are you surprised that it's such a difficult debate? I mean, the Minister, Combet, alluded to this a number of times. Yeah. This is going to be a very difficult policy debate. You know, there's going to be quite a difficult argument.
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I think, given Australia's high dependence on fossil fuel resources, I can see the strength of the industrial lobby groups of coal. I don't think it's surprising at all that we've ended up where we've ended up. It's somewhat sad, but it's not surprising.
And do you think implicitly he was issuing a sort of call to arms in the sense that this business community really needs to engage in the advocacy to make the case for a price on carbon, and particularly emissions trading?
I got more the impression it was more challenging his political opponents to really put their cards on the table. I mean, you'd expect that from a politician anyway, but I mean, his comments were basically, the Liberal Party haven't got a leg to stand on in opposing a carbon cap and trade scheme, and that the Greens, ironically, shouldn't be opposing something which would have led to a 140 million tonne reduction in carbon by 2020. Yeah. So I think his arguments are pretty clear. He would be scoring political points, as you would expect from a politician. It was very clear.
Now, Standard & Poor have just issued a report looking at sort of carbon exposure and carbon risk performance in Asia. Do you want to? I mean, how does that? Do you want to say a little bit about that and how that relates to the Australian situation?
Yeah, we canvassed the views of around 300 corporates rated by Standard & Poor's across Asia Pacific, and the main findings that we found were that corporations were very worried about climate change, physical climate change impact on their business. But at the same time, there was very little understanding about the true risk of carbon markets. And now I say that because companies need to understand the cost of carbon and how to manage that, and how to develop strategies for abatement and mitigation and so on. And it's very clear that in the Asia Pacific region, corporations have not really embraced that properly. Now, that's hardly surprising given the political and policy frameworks are still at an evolutionary stage. But I think it shows that there's still a long way to go before you get to the level of awareness that you see, for example, in Europe, where when we did the survey back in March, the level of understanding of risk was 2 or 3 times higher than we've seen in the Asia Pacific region.
And a final question. Minister Combet also made clear that there's effectively 2 options on the table to price carbon. So pricing carbon is not in question, but the way in which it's done through either a tax or emissions trading. I mean, do you have a view on? I mean, are the 2 neutral? Will the 2 have the same effect?
Well, not entirely. I think you could argue that tax has more predictability in terms of pricing, but from an environmental perspective, it has more uncertainty about the reduction of emissions. From a point of view of how it will impact a company's credit quality, then I think you could say the 2 are equal because they will both have an impact on cost, but at the same time, one will lead to more innovation, I think, in terms of managing the cost and developing strategies, whether it's from offsets or energy efficiency, whereas the other one, I think, probably less so.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Enjoy the...
Thanks, actually.